Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. And I'm so glad you could join me this afternoon. I have a card for you today that is, mine is Thinking of You. Now I was inspired, in fact, pretty much cased this card. This was a card that I got in a swap sometime last year at the convention, or I honestly can't remember. And the paper that was attached to it, if there ever was one, that told me who made this card is gone. So I'm very sad in that I can't give proper credit to whoever made this card. So if you recognize this card, or you know who made this card, please, or you made this card, please let me know so that I can give you proper credit. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is super simple and it is very, very striking. So let's just get started. Okay, so here is the card that I was originally given, and what makes me think that this was a swap is that the inside is blank, and that's often what happens. People make their swaps, they do the front of the card, they don't do the inside. But I thought this one was just so beautiful, and it's using that wonderful bird stamp from Free as a Bird. And so, and here's the Free as a Bird stamp set, and it's this stamp right here. And then, so what I did was I eliminated the linen thread. I stamped my image more in the center. I used Thinking of You instead of Thank You, although Thank You fits really nice if you're trying to tuck this right up close to the birds. Because my Thinking of You was so long, I had to move it down the page. I added some framing material to this, and then the inside of the card, I did basically what I did on the outside and just stamped this little piece of the bird over here onto the inside of the card. So that's what we're going to make today. And I just love it. I love the colors. I love the simplicity. And I don't know if you can tell, I'll bring this up closer to the camera here. This is run through, after it's been stamped and colored, it's been run through the subtles folder, so it's got a little bit of texture and then white on white. And mine, I did the same. I ran the texture this way. This one ran it up and down, and then added the framing to it. And I just love it. And I did away with this because I thought this almost took away from it, and let the framing, small bits of framing, very tiny margins on this, make the image pop. So what I did to make this, in this one I made top folding this way, and this one is cut to go across it this way. So this is 11 by 4 1/4, scored and folded at 5 1/2 to get one that opens this way. All right, then we need, I have 2 pieces of Purple Posy that are 4 by 5 1/4, one for the inside, one for the outside. Then I have 2 pieces of Mango Melody that are cut 1/8 of an inch smaller. So this is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and there's 2 of those. And then 2 pieces of white that are 3 by, see, it's, can't remember, 3 3/4 by 5. So I've got 2 of those, and what's going to happen is these layer on top of each other exactly the same for the inside and the outside. And then the only thing you put on there is a little bit of stamping. So that's the way that sets up. So I think we start on this by going ahead and doing our stamping. Now I'm using a series of blends, and I'll explain to you which ones I'm using as I go along. This yellow on the bird is actually Mango Melody, I figured out. And it is so beautiful. And this is Purple Posy on the inside of these little birds. And so let's just get started here. So I'm going to start with what's going to be the outside of my card. Oh, and my sentiment came from Woven Heirlooms, and it's got this thinking of you, which is, I love the font. It really lets the stamping and the coloring be the star. And I thought, you know, this could be a lovely card to send. I'm half tempted to make about 50 of these and send them to my team and to all kinds of people that I'm trying to stay in touch with because of the COVID virus, to just let them know that I am thinking of them. It's such a pretty card and so simple that I might just get started on that as a project. So I have two stamps here, my Thinking of You and my bird and my Memento ink. And I have my baby wipe and my chamois nearby here, because this is one, because it's mostly white, you really have to watch getting any ink on your fingers. So I'm going to take the ink pad to the stamp on this one, because it's a nice big stamp, and get my birds put on there. And then I'm going to put these birds as smack dab in the middle of this card as I can manage. There we go. And then put lots of pressure on all parts of that image to make sure we get a good ink transfer. And there we go. We've got a nice image. Okay, I'm not quite done with that stamp yet. In fact, no, I'm going to go ahead and do this next so I can finish the front of my card and set it to dry, because I want to start my coloring. Okay, so I'm going to ink up my Thinking of You also in the Memento, and I decided after fooling with this and putting this Thinking of You all kinds of places on this card that it looked the best right down here on the bottom. And so that's what I'm going to do, is set my Thinking of You just under the birds and to the bottom and the right. There we go. All right. And that is going to take a minute to dry. I can see that. I can see the shininess of the ink on there. So I'm going to set that aside. And then we are going to put our stamp on the inside of a little bit of that bird scratch paper underneath this whole image. So I'm going to put, these are both red rubber stamps, so they don't require anything like the pierce mat or anything underneath them. So what I'm going to do is stamp up my bird here on this end and set this down, and I just want the one bird and these leaves and flowers right here at the bottom on the inside, and then we will color those as well. And isn't that pretty? You wouldn't have to color it, you could leave it the way it is, but I think in this case I do want to color that. I'm going to just clean up my stamp. I managed to get ink all over everything all the time, so I'm trying to be more diligent about cleaning up. So this is now ready to go and be colored on the inside. I think I didn't get any ink on me. And this is almost dry. I'm going to try blotting that, because it's just down here in the corner. And that might just have done it once more for good measure. There we go. And what I can do is use this piece of scratch paper down here to cover that so that I don't get any ink smeared. Now, coloring. What I did was I used my bronze marker. When I look at this card that this was done, it's not any of the browns that we have. It has to be the bronze marker. And I do love the way that mine came out. I'm very pleased with that. So I am taking the small end of the bronze marker, and what I'd encourage you to do on your markers, I noticed that if I hadn't used a marker in a while and I went to go pick it up, I got kind of a little flood of some of the alcohol coming off of the tip. And I'd rather have that happen on my piece of scratch paper than on my project. So anymore, I've taken to opening my lid and then just making sure that I take anything off that might be there. And then I'm just going to very carefully color my branch. And I think this should be dry now, yes. And so I'm just carefully adding my color to the branch under the birds. And this brown, this bronze is just a warm brown color. Very pretty. I'll be using that more for branches and things like that, just because it's such a warm color. It's not a flat color at all. Got a little tiny branch there I want to color. And there we go. That's all I'm, oh, no, as long as I'm at it, I think I will color the branch on the inside as well. Might as well use these once and be finished. Okay, now there is nothing special to this coloring at all, but I will tell you what I'm using. Let me get my ink capped and out of the way, and I am using light Purple Posy, and I used the bronze. This is the light smoky slate, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's got just a tiny bit of a shadow underneath that branch, and you barely see it, but it does add depth, so it's very good. Then I'm using light Granny Apple Green, and then I am using light Mango Melody. And for their beaks, because none of the points on these are fine, super fine, and those beaks are awful tiny, I used my pumpkin pie marker to do the beaks on the bird. Then, let's see, the other color that I used, the dark Flirty Flamingo for the little flowers. So I am going to quiet the video and speed it up for the coloring, and I will do the birds last. I'll bring it back before I'm finished doing the birds so I can show you exactly what I did. So off we go. So now what I'm going to do is on the birds, I am going to, let me see if it's, and what I'm doing is going around the outside of the body of the bird, and I'm putting the Purple Posy in the middle of his chest. And I'm not thinking that that looks quite right. I think I want that, there we go, a little bit darker. And it's funny, sometimes these blends one side of the same pen is darker than the other, and I don't understand why, but it pays to do little tests before you put down your final color so you're getting what you want. So I'm just going around the edges of this little bird and getting down some coloring the head, the back, the wings, the tail, and around the little body, and then leaving the breast open so that I can add the purple posy to the center of the breast of the bird. And that guy's got a little bit more purple posy than he's got yellow, so I'm going to go back and add that. And just outline him a little bit more. But that is really all there is to it. Now you saw exactly what I did with the bird, so I'm going to go ahead and quiet and speed up the coloring of this last bird as well. Okay, now that I have all of my coloring done on this piece, I'm going to put it in my subtles folder and run this through my machine, and I'll be right back. Okay, so there is my piece run through the subtles folder, and this card is now ready to be assembled. This was the version that I did, was just laying here to the side, where I didn't run it through the embossing folder, and you can see the colors are just a little brighter, but I love the texture that this gives, and either way is perfectly fine, but I'm going to use this one. All right, okay, so this piece is going to go on here, then here, and then on my card base. And I am using Tombow because the margins on this are very narrow, and I want to be able to wiggle this around to make sure that I get the card right where I want it before it sticks down for sure. So I'm going to set this on my Mango Melody layer and manipulate it around until I am happy with the border all the way around my card front. And then I'm going to do the same thing on here because again the margins are very, very slim, and I want the opportunity to move this around on the card to get it just right. So here we go on our Purple Posy background, and that looks just perfect. All right, then this piece is ready to go on the front of my card, and I'm just going to go ahead and keep using the Tombow because that's what I've got out right now. And here we go, right onto the front of the card. And there we have the front of the card done. Oh my gosh, it's just such a pretty such a cheery little card. It's beautiful, just beautiful. All right, now for the inside, we're going to do that same thing. We are going to put the 3 layers together and then put this on the inside of our card. This one is ready to go on the inside of our card. And most of my cards are my own design, but every once in a while I run through a streak where everybody's done such a fabulous job that I can't help but try them out for myself. And I make little changes or big changes. Sometimes it's just an inspiration. But this card is just so beautiful, and I was going through some old swaps to get some inspiration, and this one just stood out, so I just pulled it out and thought, I'm just going to do that. And so there it is. There is our project for the day, and isn't that just gorgeous? So thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Or you could join my team. In any case, let's see, it is April, so my prize draw for the month is the Well Written and the Well Said, the stamp and die set. The stamp set is a 2-box stamp set, lots and lots and lots of sentiments. And then the other is a die set that cuts out words. So it's a wonderful combination set to have. And so all you have to do to be in my drawing is put an order of any size on my site, lbedinger.stampinup.net, or you can get to it through my blog, www.ingenuity.com. And the measurements and products are always right below the video. They're also on my blog, and it generally takes me a couple of days to get it up on my blog. And right now it's taking me an extra day or so because I don't have the help that I normally would during this time, so this takes a little bit more time. So again, that's it for me. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye.